Hello and welcome to the impzone podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today I want to talk about the chase of wrestling. Now, I'm a little bit miffed and mad because I think that some people are absolute bloody idiots. Because they do not understand the chase of wrestling. They really don't. And maybe it's the modern era, I don't know, or the fact that, WWE has ADHD booking and so does AEW. But people, I understand the whole we want something and we want it now mentality. But the thing about professional wrestling is, and a lot of businesses is, delayed gratification. That's what professional wrestling is built on. It's been built on that for the last couple of 100 years, dude. You don't get to see the babyface do the thing very often, and when you do, it's a big event, that's the whole idea of, the babyface. The babyface is meant to, get people riled up and get people, passionate about that person and going, we want to see this guy. This is the guy that we want to see. And we want to see him now. But always trying to deny people, of seeing that. And saying, but maybe he'll get it later. That's what they used to do back in the day. All the old dusty finishes and whatnot that they used to have back in the day were to keep people invested, keep people coming back for more, keep people buying tickets, buying merchandise, all the things and stuff that you think of when you think of what is this thing, the chase of the wrestler, to try to get to the title, to try to sell tickets, to try to sell pay-per-views, to try to sell merchandise, all of this stuff. And again, I agree that, you're saying, well, it's got to happen at a certain point. Absolutely, I understand that. But again, I think, with modern TikTok and everything else that's kind of the instant gratification type thing has sort of came in a lot in professional wrestling. And it's very much people don't want to wait. And I think also it's not just that they don't want to wait or they don't want to keep investing in somebody or whatever. I think that their attention span for something or anything or anyone or whatever else it is moves on very quickly. So it's really hard because you kind of got to strike while the iron is hot, so to speak. And I understand that. We'll go to two examples or three examples, I guess, here. WWE did this somewhat recently with Cody Rhodes, right? Was it last year? No, 2 years ago. WrestleMania 39, or is it 3 years ago? I don't even know now. Whatever it was, they didn't have him win the belt. And then a year later, he finally won the belt. So, it was 3 years ago because Cena just won it and then he's lost it to Cody, hasn't he? So, no, whatever. Whatever it was, anyway. I can't remember when it was. I'm not paying attention to WWE and I don't care when it was. Anyway, yes, that's what happened. Those things happened. But that was a payoff, a year in the making. And really 2 years in the making in some way. In many ways. But, well, you could argue it, but again, whatever. Because, Cody had been out for, nearly the whole friggin' year with that triceps. And he only just got back at the Royal Rumble and then won the Royal Rumble and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, la-di-da, and all that happened. But now, you look at, a few people, actually, really in TNA, Nick Nemeth, he debuted, he faced Moose, He lost to Moose in some controversial fashion, whatever, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. You know, then 6 months later or whatever it was, he won the belt. Joe Hendry challenged Nick Nemeth for the title. He lost. 6 months later or thereabouts, whatever it was, he won the belt. And now you've got, Santana coming along, loses his first opportunity at the title. Well, actually, first couple of opportunities at the title, but the main one being at Slammiversary. So now we're going to have to wait, or we would have had to have waited at least 6 months, or maybe even longer, for him to actually culminate that story and finally get the belt. It's a pattern of things happening. It's not just like, I've taken those 3 examples very specifically because, again, you can see the pattern very easily, very simply. Like I can't I can't make it easier, guys. And 6 months, guess what? That's half of a year, and people were still invested in Cody Rhodes, and no one was saying, "Oh, WWE." I think there were some people saying WWE is stuffed up, and this is not what they should have done. They should have just put the belt on Cody or whatever it was. I don't know. True, but that's not what they did. They wanted to build it up and make it a bigger thing and get more people invested in all of that stuff. They thought it was a better thing to do it at WrestleMania 40, but then some plans changed because The Rock wanted to come in and wanted to do something, and we all know how that went and whatnot, but those are the plans that you set in place. You're not just doing these things willy-nilly to say, let's put if you are going to put the belt on somebody, then you've kind of, even if you've had somewhat of a build, look at the Josh Alexander title reign. Perfect, especially meaning the first title reign, the one that was 2 minutes long or whatever it was. He was built up for a couple of months, really into that world title picture, and then won the belt. But then he lost it basically immediately. But again, he'd been built up as one of the top guys in the upper mid card or whatever it was for a while, for a year or whatever it was with the X Division title. But then you go on and say 6 months later down the road, he finally wins back the belt. That was a chase of another 6 months to keep, the interest there, of people coming back to see this guy that got robbed. That's what you got to do with your baby faces. You got to rob them blind so that people will go, "Oh, he got robbed. Poor guy. Sympathy, sympathy, sympathy. We want to see him get the belt back. We want to see this rematch. Blah blah blah. He's going to finally beat Moose and da 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 da. Or how's he going to beat Moose? He can probably beat Moose, but how's he going to get around the system and all of this or whatever it was? Actually, I think the system. Were they debuted? No, I think they had debuted around that time, hadn't they? No, it was next year that they had debuted. But he still had Myers and Edwards and some of those guys on his side and things like that, I think. So you can still call it the early stages of the system, I think. Actually, was he actually with them at that point? I think he was maybe with Myers. I can't remember anyway, but whatever. I think he had some of those guys kind of on his side, at least. So, but yeah, you could see that he was going to have that position, he wasn't just going away and they were trying to, again, delayed gratification. They were trying to lead on as long as possible while not burying him, because he never got buried, but not burying him in mid-card stuff. They were trying to keep him strong, but they were trying to give him obstacles and things to overcome and shenanigans and stuff and whatnot, because there was other things you need to build this longer. You can't just flip-flop, especially once you've flip-flopped a title really quickly, you can't flip-flop it again really quickly, because that just loses the prestige of the title. So yeah, I don't know, but still, I'm just really mad at people being they don't I don't know whether it's that they don't understand or whether it's that people just don't have any more patience anymore. I don't know really what the main like issue is. So that's just something that's sticking in my craw a little bit, and I just am a bit annoyed with, because it's like, especially with the world title division, like, because again, that's your main drawing like thing that you're gonna present to people and say this is like the most important thing that you know, and it's the thing that gets the most time, it's the thing that most gets the most attention, you know, so like not just from the office but from the fans and whatever else. So if your main event title, you know, isn't having like somebody like kind of not sneaking but sort of like somewhat under the radar, somewhat climbing up the ladder a little bit each time, it's kind of like, well, you know, what is that doing, you know, kind of thing. You need these other people to be like feeling like they're slowly climbing those runs of that ladder. Even like if people notice, it's fine. If people don't notice, it's even better. But you know, like, you need to have that balance of like you know, delaying people's gratification, because that's how you sell people on the next show. You know what I mean? Like, once the babyface or whatever wins the title, you've got to have like several other challengers for him, and you've got to take that title probably off of him very quickly, because again, people are much more interested in the guys that they like chasing the belt. They're not interested when the heel's like champion. They're only interested because of the babyface, but the heel makes it all kind of the song and dance and the chase work, you know. So they're always shaking their fist at the heel, going, that rotten heel, even though people like quote unquote know it's quote unquote fake or whatever. Sometimes it's still real to us. Like, you still have that sense of like, that dastardly son of a bitch, we want it on Cody Rhodes, or we want it on Mike Santana, or whatever it is, but god damn it, they haven't given it to us, you know. Rage, rage, rage. I don't see that a whole lot with like real TNA fans and whatnot, or like the dyed in the wool people that have been here for a long time. I just see it with the people that basically don't know anything about TNA and like don't, like, they seem like they know stuff about booking, but like, especially like Cultaholic and whatever else, some of these other channels and whatnot, especially like them, because they had their own wrestling promotion years and years ago and whatnot, and then it collapsed in like a year and they had to sell it off to somebody, and whatnot. But yeah, whatever. They definitely know about wrestling, guys. They only run their own promotion into the ground only after a year with their great ideas. And they never did anything that they said, oh, that was stupid of this promotion or that promotion to do, whatever it was, which they did friggin' all the time or whatever. But still, you know, that's the way professional wrestling has worked and will continue to work. But it is one of those things I do think you've kind of got to, you know, find a way to meet the modern day wrestling fans in the middle somewhat, which is why now it's not like not in the past it used to be like 5-6 years or even a decade or even more before somebody got a title, and now it's like not even 6 months. Like, you know, they fail and then 6 months later they get it, you know, which is, I don't know, like, or roughly whatever, at least, you know, that is pretty decent, I think. Like, yes, of course, they're going to lose it pretty soon because, again, like, there's always another babyface, and that's why it's, like, good to keep, like, cycling through people in some ways. It's like, you can never get bored because, like, there's no one, well, not really anyone there that's just like, oh, man, this guy again, you know, type thing. You know, like, when you've got like Roman Reigns there for too long and it's, you know, too much, it's like, or there's not a big enough story, or there's not a big enough thing going on behind like the whole thing, it sort of like starts falling apart. That's why people got sick of Cena, because it was like, god damn, too much, and no one else is really rising up. And that was the problem, because it's just like, well, Cena will win, lol, because there's no one else that's credible, and they didn't really care if anyone was credible, for a long time. Until they decided, oh, Roman Reigns is our new guy or whatever. You can't do that. You've got to have, not even if it's faith or whatever, you've got to say, okay, even if I don't like them or whatever else it is, we've got to be building somebody else. How else can we build wrestlers? To get to the point of being the top guy in there. So that's what you've got to do with some of these guys. You can't just forget that, you've got to have like a proper main event scene, or a proper upper card or mid card or tag team or whatever scene. You've got to have all of those like areas covered. You've got to have a bit of something for everyone. But yeah, you've got to also be thinking that it's a long-term thing. It's not just, oh yeah, he'll win it next week or whatever else it is, just because he got over or whatever else it is. Somebody got over, so what? Like, that happens like all the time. But you have to be there thinking, oh yeah, he is going to get there, and they are going to reward us for our care and whatever else of the division or the title or whatever else following along every week and every month or whatever else it is. And I know some people, especially the more casual people, only tune in to see the pay-per-views or whatever else it is. But still, like, you would be thinking, oh, well, if I'm tuning in to see Joe Hendry or to see Santana or whoever it is in this match or whatever, like, and I want to see Joe Hendry or whoever, Santana, whoever it is, win this belt, well, that's what you've got to think about. Like, you've got to think about what you can, like, do to pay those things off. You don't want to have the fans be like, oh shit, why am I buying this show when they're not going to pay, or it doesn't seem like they're going to pay off my investment of, coming every week, coming every month, whatever it is. Like, you want to be like heard as the fans. That's fine, 100%. I agree with that. And it's not to say that you can't criticize them, or you think, oh no, I think that they should have done this at this time. But you've got to think like, oh, I understand why they did that. It wasn't just like because like they didn't know what they were doing or whatever else it was. It was because they did know what they were doing in a way, but perhaps they didn't anticipate like the fans or maybe the critics or whatever else not understanding the fundamentals of wrestling and saying, oh, they should have done this. What? Of course, like, in your mind, that's fine to think. If you think, oh, they should have done this, that's even more reason to keep saying, no, we want to see this. This is what we want to see, and buy tickets for the next event. Buy tickets or, tune in for the next event when it comes around. Because that's how you're going to see the friggin' Joe Hendry or Santana or whoever it is finally get their just desserts. Or whoever it is, again. So people need to learn patience, I guess, is the key message here in some ways, in some forms, in some fashions. So yeah, that is my rant on on this, and yeah, I just wanted to get it off my chest, I guess, because it's been really annoying me that people are like, oh, that was stupid. Lol, TNA, haha, I don't know how to book, oh, all of this sort of stuff. No, they know how to book, bro. You don't know how to book. And you have an ADHD brain, and you can't friggin' be patient for them to actually tell you another story, another build, another redemption, or whatever else it is. If you had watched wrestling like 10 years ago, or whatever it was, you would think that they didn't know what they were doing. Like, yet they had plans. They had big long-term plans. They had plans spanning over a year or more, you know. But just because, you know, you can rag on them, like, you could criticize them and say, oh, I don't know whether this is the right decision or whatever, you know, maybe you could do this better or you could do that better or whatever. Yeah, but again, you know, that is hindsight in some ways, always. All these things. But anyway, guys, I think obviously a lot of you, like you main guys who kind of are, you know, dyed in the wall guys who are fans of TNA and that sort of thing, real fans of wrestling, been in it for like 10, 15 years or more, or whatever it is. You guys get it, I know, but it's just like some of these people, like sometimes, especially like some of these like reporters who have been in the business for like 10 years or more, it's like, dudes, you guys should know better. And I think, again, they're just shitting on TNA to shit on TNA because they don't like TNA. And they've made that very well known for a long time. So, and it's like, can I really trust your commentary on this? Because you've got, like, yes, TNA's had a lot of bad things. But, fuck's sake, which fucking wrestling company fucking well hasn't? And if you can't fucking see the things that they've done that have been positive, or ever give them a fucking break and say, oh yes, all right, whatever. They had some bad shit, they had some good shit, whatever. Move the fuck on. Get fucking over it. Get over the fact that they had the reverse battle royal and they had this silly thing or that silly thing that you thought was stupid or whatever it was. Get the fuck over it. Stop being such a bloody baby about them doing things differently from WWE. Every single time that they did something different from WWE, everyone was always like, oh, they can't do something different from WWE. They have to be the same as WWE. And every time that they do something the same as WWE, they would go, oh, you can't do the same thing that WWE is doing. You can't do that. You can't copy them. You have to be different. Make up your fucking minds, for fuck's sake. Either they can be different and do their own fucking things, or they can't do the fucking same, have to do the fucking same things. You can't have it both ways, you know? And people will complain about it. Dumbass, fucking, like, Full Metal Mayhem. Like, people still complain. Like, why do they call it Full Metal Mayhem? Because WWE owns TLC, cunt. They own that fucking name. They have it copyrighted, dickhead. They can't just call it Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, you idiot, because it's fucking copyrighted. For fuck's sake. People are so dumb sometimes. I'm getting really angry now, sorry. But yes, yeah, whatever. Anyway, guys, if you've stuck here this long, thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed it. But just some of these people absolutely piss me the hell off. So, hope you understand. Anyway, guys, hope you've enjoyed and I hope you'll join me again in another one.